Good morning, everyone. This is Jeffy Kennedy, author of Epic Fantasy Romance. I'm here with my first cup of coffee. Delicious. Today is. Oh, you know what today is? Say it with me. Friday! Woo! June 24th. One more week left in June, and we're halfway through the year. How did this happen? It's a mystery. So, um, yeah, things are going well here. Today's an exciting day for me. Um, Taking my friends Charlie and Megan to Santa Fe Airport to go on their trip to Italy. Lucky them. And picking them up at 11. So I'll have a little bit of a strange morning, not quite my full writing day, but it's a special occasion. And then I pick up. It's funny because their plane goes out and my friend's plane come in, Alex Delamonica, and who's also Alex Beckett, and Kelly Robson, uh, arrive at like 12:45. Santa Fe is a very small airport, so um, it's exciting. What's funny is they're going to do the same thing on the return departure. So I'm beginning to wonder if maybe they're like superhero alter egos of each other, that they can't be in the same place at the same time. And probably take Alex and Kelly out to lunch because I think they're not going to have time to eat. They got up very, very early, Toronto time. Uh, Kelly messaged me a good morning at 1:30 my time, so 3:30 Eastern time. But they were at the airport and left at 7 my time. The plane departed. They have a pretty tight connection in Denver, and then it's just a real short hop from Denver to Santa Fe. So I suspect they will not have eaten, except for airplane food, which probably doesn't count. Remember when they used to like serve you full meals on the airplane? Like you'd get those kind of like, well, it was even before microwave. So it was like, I don't know how they did it, like steam heat or something. That it was, yeah, like those sort of TV dinners. It was like being microwaved. But you'd get the meal on the plane. Is that dating myself? This last time flying, it was a bit more like normal times. It was you know, you could get alcohol on the plane, you could drink, and it was it was American. And both of them were fairly short flights, so we just got like cookies, cookies or pretzels. I wonder if they will go back to offering things like the box lunches and that sort of thing. In July, I am flying to to Reagan National Airport via Atlanta, I think, on Delta. So it'll be interesting to see. All this resuming travel again, seeing people, right? It's kind of cool. So it's a pretty morning here. We're supposed to have a relatively sunny day and then more rain coming in tomorrow. My allergies, you can hear, my allergies are going crazy with the desert pollen kicking into bloom. It's the up and down sides of monsoon. Love to get that rain, um, but then the grass pollen really kicks in. was trying to get this to pause, but it won't. I have weird connectivity this morning. I was just going to clear my throat a little bit so you guys didn't have to hear it. There, that's better. All right. So, um, I made progress on Shadow Wizard yesterday. I'm nearly at the end of scene one. It's a lot of banter, but there's adventures too. Adventures plus banter. Can't go wrong there, right? Um, Jadrin is pretty haunted and tormented. I haven't quite figured out what all his deal is, but yeah. And I got to do a scene that I've never gotten to write before, and it's a somewhat cliche scene. We've seen it in various movies, and I asked Dorinda. I said, "Is this too cliche?" The scene I just wrote, and she's like, "No, I love it." And I'm like, "It's a classic for a reason, right?" And she said, "Yes, absolutely." So, um, the other thing that happened yesterday was I got a message from Agent Sarah on a quick turnaround thing. Seriously quick. Quick, like she needs this from me next week. And I don't normally, I try not to check my email, but every once in a while I check it on my phone because I only get one kind of email on my phone. It's one email address, and it's only some people have it, and it's for important stuff like that. So I saw the email from Sarah saying quick turnaround, so I went ahead and read it, um, and it's kind of a cool opportunity. Of course, I cannot tell you about it, but it's yeah, it's a work for hire thing, and I needed to pull a pitch together for her, and it involved going through like a lot of old material. So that was really interesting. It had been a long time since I have gone back through the dregs of, it's not the dregs, the archives. Doesn't the archives sound happier? The archives of when I was a baby writer. I mean, we're talking mid late 90s, people. People is also a good alternative to you guys. So, um, so yeah, it's funny because back in the day, um, it the way that I organized my files on the computer, and this is someone who, I've been using computers most of my life. I started learning how to program in DOS when I was a sophomore in high school. I think so. On those little boxy Mac computers, and we could program the pixels, pixel by pixel to create graphics. It was really it was terrific experience. I learned a lot about computer logic and how to assemble a program. In some ways, I really miss. I mean, I know I can still go to DOS command, but there were ways that we could manipulate the computer then that Windows actively prevents us from doing now. So I oh well, the way that these files were organized, because my I worked for I had my career type job, right? Sorry, I'm coughing so much. I did take an at home COVID test and it came out negative. I think this is just allergies. I don't have a fever or anything like that. It's just a little croupy. So for a whole lot of my early writing career, I also had my environmental consulting career. and I would use the same computer for both. Um, Later, I got my own computer, but especially because, well, we're all aware of, like the day job subsidy on your uh, passion career, right? Where you send and reply to emails during the workday and during slow times at the day job. I would do writing stuff, but I was very careful to keep those files separate. And so I had, um, like, it's funny because I created a folder that was called like work file, only I called it a work file. So it would be at the top of the sort because back in the day, you couldn't do like reverse alphabetical sort. So it was called a work file. And that was where I kept all of my personal files. And then I had Jeffy personal, and within Jeffy personal was writing. And within writing, I had subfolders. And it's funny to see this now because, of course, now I have things organized by like series. So my current file organization is, like generally by series. And then I have subfolders for the various books. And now I have for editions. So, like for Covenant of Thorns, I have the 2022 editions because we're going to be releasing that. I think I'll put the Rogue's Pawn cover on today's show notes. I think I haven't yet. I've been having fun making reels, though. I'm getting closer to TikTok land. It's fun to choose the music for them. So then I thought of things differently. And it's interesting to me to see the shift in how I thought about my work. So back then I had these folders that were like, um, I have to think of what they are now. They were drafts, published, and ping pong were the three main folders. Published is obvious. As soon as something got published, I would move that subfolder into the published folder. Drafts had a couple of subfolders that were um, in progress and finished. So finished were the ones that I'd actually completed it, whereas the in progress were fragments or things that I felt like I needed significant work on. And then ping pong, which I've talked to a lot of mentees about, and I've probably mentioned on here, was I got this advice very early on with sending stuff out, was to treat it like a game of ping pong. So you send out a query or a submission, and when it came back, and this was days of snail mail, very much later, and then it merged. There was this sort of transition where there was some via email, and then it moved entirely to email. But there were like still a few holdouts. There were still some places that would only take place things by snail mail. They're all gone now. They died out with the dinosaurs, deservedly so. But the the way that ping pong worked was it took away that plane going by. It took away that onus of, or the, it's not really an onus. It was, I don't know, that burden, that terrifying burden of like having to send stuff out again. It's like, oh my God, I got rejected. Instead, you treat it like they fired the ball back. You got to volley it back. And so I would have things ready to go. So a lot of things in the ping pong folder were never published. They were finished and never published. So when I went back through all of this old stuff, I belatedly thought to look for ping pong because there was one that I was thinking, I know I have this somewhere, and I remembered what it was called, and it was an essay that was called Grooming Lessons. That was actually a series of poems, which one of the few poems that I wrote professionally, like since my angsty high school poems. But they won me a poetry fellowship from Wyoming Arts Council, which I always found kind of ironic. Um, I never won the fellowship for my essays or my fiction. It was for these poems. And I only wrote these as poems because I'd been trying to write them as an essay for so long. And I couldn't get them to work. And a friend of mine who was a poet, Paisley Rickdahl, who's kind of famous now, Paisley and I were having coffee and she suggested trying to write them as a poem instead. And it worked. I mean, yeah, it worked. So, but they were never published. So now I would like what I'm going to do is take them and break them apart and turn them into something fiction because it was one of the ideas that Sarah liked. So it was funny, like I went back to that drafts folder and I've got multiple iterations. One of these days in my spare time, I need to go back through. I've got everything in Dropbox and I've got to go back through Dropbox because I have things repeated. Like I have that writing folder in like Jeffy Personal, and I have it in other subfolders because I was so paranoid about losing stuff, especially when I finally left the day job and everything was going to be on my computer and I no longer had access to, like I used to do like those tape backups. Remember those things? Before the cloud. So I, I'm sorry, I got all distracted thinking about it's such a monumental effort. Yeah, who knows? Maybe I will never do it. I just go ahead and pay my $20 a month to Dropbox to keep multiple copies of all of my files forever. But they came in handy at this time. Um, yeah, so I'd gone back and I'd found like the in progress stuff and the fragments, and I have multiple different places where I have like story ideas. And so I put all of these down into a document for Sarah, and she went through and picked out some stuff. So it's kind of cool to resurrect some of these things. It was funny to read some of my early stuff from the mid 90s. There was one set of, it was like these three pieces of flash. And I don't remember if we called it flash then. Maybe we did. But the idea, they're just like 350 words each, three of them. And I thought maybe this would work for this project that I could tweak and expand because I always liked it. I remembered having a great fondness for this, and it was called Three Fairy Tales Showing a Morbid Fascination with Feet. I have my themes, right? So it was funny to see that I was thinking about this stuff even then. It was the Red Shoes, the 12 Dancing Princesses, and Cinderella. And I remembered them as being very witty and snarky, and they are kind of snarky, um, almost unpleasantly so. And I was not nearly so witty as I thought myself, not nearly so clever as I wanted to believe. I kind of read these and I'm like, I thought that these were going to, I'm like, at last I can resurrect these things that I was ahead of my time and said all these very interesting things about misogyny and fairy tales and how women are punished for their feet. And I don't know that maybe the kernel of the idea is there, but these were not the jewels that I recall them being. Alas. So, but there were some jewels, and it was very interesting to read these things from when I was trying out my voice, when I was experimenting with different prose styles, um, trying to show different things. Um, yeah, yeah. So I'm glad I have multiple versions of all these old files. Um, I will be no Harper Lee, where they dig out the manuscripts to publish after I am gone in a brazen attempt to cash in on my reputation. Perhaps someone will, but you guys, these things are not going to rake in money. I just don't see it. So anyway, I got that back from Sarah, and so this morning I need to punch them up a bit. I can do it over the weekend, but it's going to be kind of a busy, fun-filled weekend, so I may not have a lot of time. So I'm going to do that this morning and at least get them started so that I can go back and punch them up some, and also work on Shadow Wizard. But then I'm out of here, go doing airport runs and fetching friends. So it was actually a good place for me to get this emergency thing from Sarah. Like if she had sent this to me 2-3 weeks ago when I was in the panicked depths of trying to finish Storm Princess, there would have been no way. But right now, I'm doing well on track for Shadow Wizard. What am I doing? I like made air quotes. Really what I want to do is knock on wood, so I should do that. Knock on wood. But yeah, yeah. So, all right, I'm going to go get to work. I hope you all have a wonderful Friday. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. I hope you get to spend the time with dear friends. Um, I have not seen Kelly and Alex since August of 2019 in Dublin, as it were. I don't know, not as it were. Ironically enough, oddly enough, when we were at Worldcon in Dublin. So, coming up on almost 3 years since I've seen them in the flesh. So, yeah, it's really good to be able to see friends and be with them again. And I hope that you can have some of that. And I will talk to you all on Monday. You all take care. Bye bye.